This week, I am celebrating the 51st anniversary of human beings walking on the moon. That's right, on July the 20th, 1969, Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. As you know, this did not happen overnight. This vision that was so compelling that captured the imagination not only of our country but really of the entire world was a vision that, of course, human beings have had for many, many years before the 1960s, but really became a goal, an expressed vision in 1961 when President JFK actually spoke to joint sessions of Congress and to the American public and said, by the end of this decade, the 1960s, we will send someone to the moon and they will come back safely. Now, the reason that was such an unbelievable and amazing vision, in part, was because at that point, the most that the space program had done in America was send someone into suborbit. There had not even been that John Glenn moment where someone had orbited the globe in outer space. And in fact, I guess what I'm saying is we had not even officially been in outer space yet. And we were saying that by the end of the decade, we were going to land on the moon. What an audacious, unbelievable vision. And yet, that vision took hold of the imagination of a nation, and it allowed for the alignment of resources and ingenuity to the point that in 1969, on July 20th, that we celebrate the 51st anniversary of this week, people did walk on the moon and they did return home safely. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So today, I just want to reflect upon how this vision of walking on the moon is inspiring and informing my own vision for the church. I don't know how often I've tried to express what my vision for the church is, but it's been a vision that's lived in me for, I would say, around 20 years. Since I was late in high school, I started to develop this dream. And when I say develop, I didn't sit down and try to write it down or strategize it on a whiteboard. It's just been something that I feel like has been living in me. I've come to believe that this is something that God has placed in me with my faith, with my love for God. And I've noticed that as my life has changed, as I've, you can imagine how different I am now from when I was a high school student. Now I'm a husband and a father. I've gone through many different things in life, and yet, this vision still remains with me. What is it? Well, this vision that I have is for a church that has a sense of discipleship and community and mission that is far more life-giving, joyful, robust, and world-changing than the church experience that I grew up with, and that is the traditional model of church today. And when I say that, I don't mean in any way to say that the traditional model of church isn't something God is working in or changing people's lives or impacting the world in a positive way. It is doing all of that. And yet there just is this version, this understanding and vision for church that I have in my mind that is so much more than what the traditional church model offers and tends to put into the world. More specifically, what I envision is this beautiful multiplying network of tight-knit Christian communities that are small and that are locally based in their neighborhoods. I see people who are engaging their neighbors, those who are unaffiliated with church, and being a part of what God is doing in the world to transform our neighborhoods at that local level. And I see that, again, happening in this way that multiplies and stretches from piece to piece, from tiny neighborhood to tiny neighborhood, until it saturates cities and perhaps even an entire nation in the world. That vision, when I say it that way, I feel audacious. I feel ludicrous. I feel like that is something that for me to think that it could happen and for me to spend my time and energy working to see it become a reality almost seems silly. And so the first thing that I get from the NASA Apollo missions, from the lunar aims to land on the moon, is that it's okay to have a vision that is out of this world. It's okay to have a vision that seems ludicrous. It's okay to have a vision that maybe even at this moment almost seems unattainable and unreachable. It's those kind of visions that change the world. And so when I look at this anniversary of people walking on the moon, I'm reminded that it's okay. I'm in good company when it comes to having a vision that's like this. Another lesson that I get from the Apollo missions, from the space program in the 60s, is that it takes a long time to see a vision like this realized. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen quickly. And it happens over many, many iterations of incremental progress. If you look at the space program, they didn't start in 1961 with getting a lunar module. No, what they began with was, hey, we've got to get people in orbit, and then we've got to figure out how to create a rocket system that can get the weight and payload we need into the sky. They took these steps and stages to get to the place where they wanted to go. It didn't happen all at once. Sometimes in my own vision, I want to get to the end right away. I want to see. I want to see that vision realized in one step, in one stage. And the truth is, it's probably not going to happen that way. Over this last year, for instance, I think I took off more than I could chew. I bit off more than I could chew. And I have a strategy that I thought could get us there in one stage. And I'm starting to realize, as that strategy has struggled, that it's maybe going to take more than one stage to get to this vision. And that's okay. That to have visions that are big and that are different and that are out of this world means that you're going to have to work in stages, and that it's going to take a long time. It took 9 or 10 years for this vision to be realized, which to me is amazing that they did it in that amount of time. Just a reminder that when JFK offered the challenge in 1961 to put a man on the moon and to bring him home safely. At that point, what the space program had accomplished was putting someone into suborbital flight. They had not even gotten into orbit. And so I need that reminder that having a vision means that it's going to take time, and it'll take time in stages, and that's not a bad thing. Another thing that I'm reminded about when I reflect upon the mission to land on the moon was how complicated it was politically. It was complicated politically. Today, as we look at people landing on the moon, at least when I do in my generation, I see this amazing scientific, technological, human exploration thing that took place, right? I mean, we had human beings walking on the moon. But during the 60s, one of the real drivers for this vision wasn't some beautiful human exploration, challenging the frontiers of technology heart. There was a political heart to this, and it was the space race with Russia. It was the Cold War. It was trying to have a nuclear armament in space. It was trying to have the edge of the space frontier in a battle that was taking place between nations. And so what I remember is that there will always, when any vision is putting itself into history and being lived out in the world, will take on political complications. This was true with the life and ministry of Jesus. It was true with the vision to land on the moon and come back safely. And it's true with my vision, that the vision that I have for the church is taking place in the midst of culture, taking place in the midst of an institution that is going through tremendous political upheaval and political imagination. In fact, there's no way to really even do anything of substance in the world right now without it being politicized or viewed by others as being political. And I'm realizing there's nothing that can be done about that. You can try. I remember feeling, a decade ago, like you could do things in the church without getting them too hyper politicized. And today, the world is in such a way that no matter what you do of substance, if it has to do with what's really happening in the world, someone's going to label it, and they're going to call it left or right. They're going to call it conservative or liberal. They're going to call it wrong or right. And that is a troubling thing. And yet I realized with the space program in the 60s that it was complicated then too. It wasn't just this pure altruistic vision. It was something that had a lot more political complications to it. And any vision will have that if it's really bearing itself out in the world. And then another thing that I've learned that maybe is the most important from the space program in the 1960s is that there is great personal cost and there is great personal challenge whenever there's a vision like this. You may know that Apollo 1, it was Apollo 11 that landed on the moon, but Apollo 1 was deadly. Three astronauts died in a fire when they were beginning the test put people in the module to get off of Earth's surface. And this was tragic. It was utterly devastating. Up to that point, there was a lot of positive momentum for this mission in the imagination of the public and in the morale of NASA. But when this took place, when people actually died, it kind of just made everything come to a standstill. I think there was probably some real doubt within NASA and within the public consciousness about whether or not this dream, this vision, would actually materialize after such a tremendous loss. This was tragic, and it really made people wonder, is this worth it? Is this something we ought to be doing? Trying to get on moon isn't something we need to feed ourselves, or it doesn't seem to be something we need to do to survive. And if it's going to take human lives, is it worth it? And so I'm realizing that in any vision, there's going to be loss. Any vision that's truly trying to make its way into the world and change things from the way they are is going to include loss. And not just because there's a vision, but because it's human life, because it's life on Earth. Some of it doesn't have to do necessarily with the vision. It has to do with just the weight of death, the weight of failure. These are things that personally we have to carry with us as we pursue a vision in the world. And I'm realizing that that's the case with my vision too. This last year, I've mentioned in a previous newsletter, has included a lot of loss, personal loss. And I'm interested in the fact that there was kind of this little pause that took place. And we look in history on the Apollo missions after Apollo 1, this wonder, this grief about whether or not they could continue on. Of course, we know that they recovered, that after time the energy was built again, that hope was restored, and that NASA continued in their vision, that the hopes of the nation was rekindled, and the rest is history, right? We landed on the moon. I need that image sometimes, and I think all of us do when we have visions that are audacious and unbelievable and include great loss, that we can get back up again, that it's okay to pause, that it's okay to say, hold on, can we really do this? And then to get back up and try again. That personal challenge perhaps is the greatest one of all. Undoubtedly, there will be resistance. Undoubtedly, in any vision, there will be difficult times, and undoubtedly, there will be suffering and there will be loss. The question is the vision compelling enough? Does it bring us enough hope that we are able to get back up and try again? And so I'm inspired this week, and I just wanted to share those things, my little space nerd thoughts with you today as I've been reflecting on this anniversary, 51st anniversary of human beings landing on the moon. Of course, as you know, NASA is back at it, and there is great energy and effort going into going to Mars. And so this is a new frontier that people are seeking. And I almost think that the mission to Mars is almost a given. We're going to do it. And the reason that I feel like we can do it, and that most people think we can do it, is because we've already gone to the moon, and that one seemed even more impossible. And so I'm encouraged, as I have a vision in my heart, that it sometimes seems audacious and difficult and includes loss and difficulty, that it's worth pursuing. That yes, it will be politically complicated. Yes, there will be loss. Yes, it's going to take a long time. And yes, the vision will sometimes seem impossible. But we will continue pressing on. Thank you for being somebody who listens to my stories and joins me on this journey, for praying for me, for encouraging me, most of all for believing that impossible visions can take place with the help of God's grace. God bless you.